Up on this video, we will be wrapping up phase 1 of the Trail Seeker 1. We'll blow off the camper, add on some new fresh paint, throw on some decals, and show you how I did my hitch extension so I can pull my box trailer. Alright, we're about to wrap up phase 1 of the Trail Seeker 1 truck camper. We've got the interior taken care of. Last video we showed how to prep the surface, and now it's time to show you how to throw on a fresh coat of paint. After you get the camper all sanded down, you got to blow off all the excess dust. You will see anything that's left behind in the final product. Alrighty, this is our acrylic enamel paint, and it really depends on how you want it to go on. The first coat I usually try to go a little heavy on the reducer. Pour in here. Take your reducer. This is the same paint that they paint cars with. I didn't go with the base coat, clear coat, just because the expense for one thing, and it really just doesn't need it. It's just an old camper. There's a percentage of this or that you're supposed to do, but I've done this for quite a few years. I just go by the way it looks. Stir it up. They also make a hardener. It helps you get a good shine. I think that will work right there. Check your air pressure. Alright, now we're finally ready to throw some paint down on the camper. I use the same technique as I showed on episode 2, where you just kind of keep your wetness together, but the only thing kind of differs is that the first coat I throw down a real light coat of paint. That helps traps down any oils off your fingers, anything that's going to contaminate the surface of the camper. If you don't do this, a lot of time the paint will show like a little what they call fish eye, and basically what it is, the paint will separate and leave like little bubbles where the paint doesn't want to stick to the surface. But once you go over and you kind of do a light coat, and then you're able to come back and go with a heavier coat and keep your wetness all together. And also, this is at the point where you can determine whether you have your paint mixed up right. If it's too thick, it will not come out of your gun very well. It will actually come out kind of dry already. So you want to make sure you have enough thinner. If you have too much thinner, and then it will come out too much, and then that's when you'll get a run really easy. If you have your paint too thin, it will shine better, but you definitely have a better risk, or more of a risk, of getting a run, and nobody wants a run. You also don't want your air pressure too high. If you have your air pressure too high, you will lose a lot of your paint with the overspray. As you can see, I'm getting a lot of overspray. You're going to get this, but if you have your pressure set too high. That will make the overspray situation even worse. And also, as far as the overspray is concerned, anything that you don't want painted, you want to make sure that it is masked off. As you can see, as I talked about in episode 2, I'm kind of impatient. There's a lot of stuff here I should have probably taped off, but I'm the type that just wants to get it done, so I tape off as little as possible. A lot of this stuff, like the back ladder going up over it, it's going to get painted anyways. I'm going to paint it black, but make sure that anything that you don't want painted, you go ahead and get it masked off. Most likely I should have probably had my truck somewhere else, even though it didn't affect, but anything that you don't want overspray on or painted, you should keep it away. And another thing, as far as you should do what I say, not as I do, you should really be wearing a mask. I'm outside, I'm not really breathing the fumes as much as if I was in a garage, but they do make masks that you can, either a disposable mask that you can get when you get the paint, or you can buy a mask that is reusable. But as you can see, I'm not wearing any, which is not recommended. It's actually called a respirator if you go to ask for one. I painted this camper in steps. I did the one side, and now this is the second day that I was painting. I painted this side, and then the next day I painted the back of the camper. You can do it all at once. I basically was just doing it as I got time in the evenings after work, so I didn't want to bite off more than I could chew in one evening. But you can for sure tape it all off and just paint it all at once. It's going to take at least 2, maybe even 3 coats of paint, depends on how well your paint covers. Well, as I'm wrapping up the paint on this thing, the next thing we did, we added a stripe on the side to break up the dark gray. I actually was wanting a light gray, and the light gray of the stripe was what color I was wanting. But since I didn't get the paint mixed correctly, I went with a dark gray, and now the light gray is actually what color the stripe's going to be. Alright, so the gray, excuse me, the light gray is what I was initially wanting it to be, and it went a little darker. Adding this stripe, I'm doing the same method that I used when I masked off all the windows and things that I didn't want painted on the dark gray. But now you just run a straight piece of masking tape, and then you just tape off the dark gray in order not to get the light gray. I got my graphic taped off, sand, can't see very good because it's sunny, but we're about ready to spray. Alright, once again we're using that same technique. Just keep your wetness together, back and forth. It will take about 3 coats to get this covered. Alright, just a little update. Got it painted, got some stripes on it. Still waiting. I did get one of my decals. So now we're starting to mount this thing down. And this is basically how well it's going to see in the dark. Folded it to the frame. Just had A friend of mine had this. It's an old package in crate, and basically I cut it here, and that was the two frame rails. This piece here is out of here, and this also got I'm making my own hitch. I'm not done yet. I gotta drill holes through that and that. This is a piece of heavy duty 2-inch tubing with the receiver. This the steel itself, not including this piece. I had this, but what you see here is $80 at my steel shop. So that's how I got this. But anyways, go be good. Go be good. Go be good. So I welded this one here, and that's going to fit on there with a pin. And here's my tie down, and it's going to be a hole here, and I'm going to run my tie down from here to there, and that's also going to help hold. I got another piece that goes inside of there to take up the slack, but that's going to help hold the hitch up. And so that's where we're at. I got the graphics on this side coming together. These are cheap graphics. My graphic shop didn't get my graphics done. These aren't the ones I was wanting, but I wanted to see. It was only like $21 on eBay. I got to get the heat gun on it. I just stuck them on there. I got to cut around everything, get all the air bubbles out. But that's my basic look that I'm wanting to go with. But I thought I'd just get a little update on how this is working. I got to paint everything yet. Yep, you want to get back at it. Alright, now let's talk about laying down some graphics. Now, I will tell you right away that I don't recommend getting the cheap graphics. The reason I got these, as I already mentioned, is we had a design from the graphic shop, but I was leaving actually today, this day that I'm putting graphics on. I wanted something on it to just kind of give everybody the idea of what I'm going for, and it wasn't going to work out. We couldn't get our design made, so I ordered these as a secondary choice, and they came in. So Heidi helped me to throw them on here real quick. But basically, how you want to do it, definitely something this big, you need two people. You have a back layer and you have a front layer. These cheaper ones, they're kind of thin. It was a colder day. It wasn't really a fun task, but you want to start on one end and you want to work it from one end to the other end, and as you're working it, you're working the air bubbles out. Some people use soapy water. I've never done that. I'm sure if you know how to do that, it probably works better, but I just work on one end and I work my bubbles towards right to left, or left to right, or top to bottom, or whatever works best for you. But this camper, as you can see, is not smooth, so it definitely took some time in order to get all the bubbles worked out. And once I got it laid out as good as I could, I take a heat gun. A heat gun, for one thing, loosens the glue. It allows the glue to stick to the camper or whatever you're sticking it on a lot better, and it allows the decal to stretch over the little cracks and crevices. As you can see, it took some time. As you just saw, Heidi had to go, but I got what I needed out of her. But once you rub the decal on, and then you have the outer layer to take off. Um, this cheaper graphic had a plastic outer layer. Most of the time they'll have a paper outer layer. But like I say, I really wouldn't recommend the cheaper graphics just because of that. Well, this is going to wrap up phase 1 of the Trail Seeker 1, the making, and we'll be starting on phase 2, which is basically just going to be updating the camper with more modern technology such as a radio, the solar panels, and the TV. But thanks for watching. Our next video will be taking it out for our first trip. I hope you got something out of my videos. If so, leave a comment and give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you on the next time. But if you have any questions, just leave a comment and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks.